I have an exciting guest today on the Instant Celebrity Maker. His name is Ashish Bisaria, and he is a Harvard graduate who attended an 18-month intense program. And we had a little bit of discussion before the show began, and I want to talk a little bit about that and then get into the rest of the interview. But say hello, Ashish.
Hi there, viewers. Good to talk to you virtually.
Yeah, but I want to start off with what we just went over before we went live. Tell us that credo of let's say the marching orders of the Harvard graduate and what you were enmeshed in while you were in attendance.
Yep. Our credo was make decent profit decently. It was something that was ingrained into us in every class, and especially today's world where greed has sometimes taken over the corporate world.
So much.
I love what they talk about.
Yeah, it's like you make a profit. There's no shame in making money. But do it decently. Do it with honor and integrity. And I love that. I mean, I wrote it down because I'm going to use that and talk about it more. I mean, that's a beautiful article to talk about that. And I think I'm going to do and give you the proper credit to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. So how would your friends describe you, Ashish?
Yeah. So definitely an outgoing person. Right from my childhood, I would say between sports, friendship, education, I always wanted to be better than the average. I didn't want to be the one that pulled the class down or the group down. But most importantly, they'll say I'm always happy and I find the positivity easily in this humanity that surrounds us.
Okay. And how long have you been in the U.S.? I have a special spot for expats because I lived overseas myself for more than a decade. I've just recently moved back to the U.S. So, I mean, how long have you been in the U.S.?
Mitch, been very blessed. I moved to U.S. in 1999, but I left India in 1994, and this is my 7th country of living.
Same here. I've lived in 7 countries.
Awesome.
Yeah. So like I said, I have a soft spot for expats because some countries I felt welcome, other countries get out of here, American. So we won't bring that in. So okay. So you've been around. All right. And how would your friends describe you?
Yeah, I would say positive. I'm always looking at the bright side of humanity.
Okay.
Even when people are struggling, I'll find a way to bring a smile.
Okay. And what is your greatest accomplishment? And that can be personal or business.
Yep. I think we all talk about legacies, and I think about my legacy as my 2 boys. They are now 21 and 17.
Wow.
And I would say my biggest accomplishment is I believe I'm raising 2 men who will contribute to the world more than they will take anything from the world. And that gives me hope and heart to say I've done something right.
Okay. Well, I would say those are 2 great accomplishments. Sure. What do you wish you had known when you started out in business?
Yeah, I think a few things. First, don't take things personally. It's business. Ideas, discussions, debates are about a topic. It's not directed to an individual. I didn't have the maturity early enough. I also started my career where we didn't have internet to Google every answer. So you had to put in the effort and the time to study and learn about the business that you're in. And I wish I was more open to sharing my knowledge back then. I think the statement knowledge is power kind of went negative early in my career, where I would spend more time reading, but I wouldn't share it with my colleagues. I wish I hadn't done some of those things early in my career. We grow better as a community and as colleagues when you openly share versus trying to focus on yourself.
Okay. Makes sense. And what are you curious about right now?
Mitch, one thing and one thing alone that drives me, humanity, connection. How do we, in the world where we have dug deeper into our belief systems or whatever the case may be, how do we bring the humanity back? That's my one obsession. My career, my personal life, my relationships with family and friends is based around that.
Well, let's talk for a second about what you do professionally, because that tethers in directly with what you do professionally. Tell us about your company that you work with and what your mission is.
Yep. So typically, I say I'm in the business of customer experience. But if I was to break down this a little bit deeper, businesses typically are so wrapped up around their structure, their product, their policies and process that in the somewhere they forget that their business is about the customer and the human and to serve them. And this is not to say companies disregard experience, but they are not as critical about their business model as they should be. My core focus with my company is to look at a business model and say, are you truly customer obsessed or customer focused? And there are many examples. Starbucks of the world and the Amazons of the world and Apples of the world are often quoted as the epitome of customer experience, which these are great brands. But even in those models, there are 10 other things we can do better to be more customer focused. So for me, it's all about how do these companies show up for the customers, and in the digital world where we are inundated with different platforms of engagement from emails and chat and text and voice, how do you make sense of the business in ways that makes the customer feel special and loved?
Yeah, it's so true, because we talked a little bit about your kids. They text. I mean, that generation, they text. They don't talk. It's bizarre to you and I, I'm sure, but it's just how the world has evolved.
Yeah.
And
well, I have to say that, Mitch. They will never call unless they need money, and then they are, Dad, can we talk?
Okay. Oh, then they use your communication platform, your preferred communication platform to get what they want. That's very astute thinking. Okay. What's something you failed at?
Oh, well, I can answer it in two parts, on a personal front and also on a professional front.
Please.
On a personal front, I have had a failed marriage, right? I can look back and see 10 things I could have done differently early on to not put us in that spot. So that's on my personal. Now, again, failure also means you learn from it to not repeat the behavior. So that's been my focus. On a professional front, I think my obsession has always been helping business transform. And the thing that it took some hard lessons early on is everybody's speed of acceptance of change is different. Change is scary for a number of people. And when in the corporate world, you are the change leader and the transformation leader, the assumption that everybody's ready is flawed. And early on, I pushed through the agendas of transformation much faster, which costed a lot of things. It took the project didn't go as well, the benefits didn't realize, and you burn bridges along the way with a few of your colleagues because they just weren't ready.
Got it. Now, I'm going to assume you're a student of history. If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. It's been a book that I'm also obsessed with. I would say Socrates is the person I would sit and have coffee with. Simply because the way he would look at life, about everything, was just different and unique. And I find myself gravitating to his style of thinking. Now, I'm not as wise and as intelligent and as philosophical as he is, but he would be the one I would love to have tea.
That's good to know. And who's been your most important professional mentor?
3 jobs back, I was leaving consulting to get into the corporate world. I'll name her. Brenda Weil was my boss. And this is not to stereotype all consultants, but if you've been a consultant for 8-9 years, there's this assumption that you know the strategic thinking and you're far well read and you've always been in the C-suite advising CEOs, which means somewhere I'm God's gift to mankind. So when you join the corporate world, there's a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. I think Brenda recognized that very early in my career. Besides providing me all the support from a professional development perspective, It's how she would guide me and how she would coach me, the subtle and the direct and sometimes not so direct ways. I think she had a profound impact on my career, my style. A different person in my 20s than I was in my 30s or 40s.
Okay. If you could go back to your 18-year-old self, what's one piece of advice you would like to provide the young Ashish?
Live every day, smile. Things will go wrong, personally, professionally, but you know what? Next morning will be fine. The first step might be tough, but it will be fine. I've taken my lumps in both professional and personal life. I worried about it way too much. And now that I have the benefit of looking back, I wish I could talk to the 18-year-old and say, just live every day as is.
Okay. And you're a man with goals, I can tell. So what is your plan to achieve your goals, both personally and professionally?
Yes, I've learned. There was a meme that was going around last year where, they were saying, nobody got it right in 2015. Where did they see themselves in 2020, right?
Right.
Here we are in a world locked down by COVID. The joke behind this is, for me, is as much as we have, long-term goals, it's almost impossible to predict. We are here, gone next minute. So I would say my goal right now, which I want to keep forever, is when I put my head back on the pillow every night, I want to look back to the day and say, I did not burn bridges and I did not take away from the world more than I contributed that day.
Okay, great. It's very worthy. And if you have a challenge thrown at you, how do you overcome it?
I've tried everything. I've cried, I've curled up in a fetal positions at times. But I think with time, I've learned that it's okay to be taken down to your knees. It's okay to feel the pain. That's one thing I've had to learn, is it's okay to feel the pain and embrace the pain. But the pain doesn't get in the way of standing up again and taking the first step. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's tough, but it's not impossible. So I remind myself when life throws challenges is nothing is impossible as long as I am above the ground and I can take the step forward.
Okay. And you know about this, you've heard it probably a million times. Most people I have met in my travels in the business world have said, I got to get a book written, or I've been a writer. If you had to write a book tomorrow, what would you write about?
So I call it this way. A monk walked into a customer experience bar.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to talk about customer experience from a very philosophical. There's a connotation about monk, and you've traveled and you've lived abroad, so you would understand. Sometimes people think monk as this, just a celibate Buddhist practitioner of religion. No, monk in my word is the wise man, the one who's in touch with themselves and the world in a deeper sense. And I would like that philosophical connection to customer experience as the book.
That's an interesting story. It's like you're walking through the barefoot monks experience. Yep. It's almost, the descriptor is the barefoot monks experience on customer experience.
Exactly. You nailed it, Mitch.
On customer experience. Yeah, I love it. I love it because I lived in Thailand for a number of years. So I was exposed to Thai Buddhism, which is different than where it originates in India. And then it's different than what it's experienced in Cambodia. It's different in each country. They have a different spin on it. It's different Buddhism in Japan. So the different monks. So and outstanding. And if there's one question you'd like me to ask you, what would it be? What would you like to communicate and convey?
The question would be, Ashish, have you made a difference today?
Ashish, have you made a difference today?
Yes. And thanks. And I would say I've made a difference today thanks to you, Mitch, for giving a platform to talk about humanity and this platform is going to impact and be heard by thousands and millions of people out there. And I hope that in this 30-minute conversation, somebody would get at least that one kernel that makes us better humans.
Well, it's interesting because most of the interviews, I do several interviews a day. As a matter of fact, I am a volume podcaster, of creating content, making connections, compared to some people that just do a show a week. Rarely do I find somebody that touches on the human side. They're usually on this show. They want to pump up their business, use this platform exposure. I mean, and that's great. But I love the fact that you're there about legacy. You have commented about the values you've installed for your boys. And I like that distinction. So how can I support you further?
Mitch, I think sharing this podcast itself is a start, right?
Okay.
We were two strangers till this morning, and here we are, our paths have crossed. I think multiple things and multiple magic happens as long as we stay connected and help each other. So starting point is exactly where we've started. At the same time, I'd love to spread the word about what Mitch and Mitch does and continue to find ways where we both can help each other. It shouldn't be just a one-way street.
No, it's always mutual when things work together. That's the acronym of team I like to use. Together, each achieves more. So it's a good one. And so they can get in touch with you here at Ashish Bisaria on LinkedIn. That's how we connected originally, was through LinkedIn, a great platform to meet new people all over the world, but we met there. So it's ASHISH for people who are audio only, Bisaria, Bisaria, and they can find you on LinkedIn in that manner and connect with you as a real individual. Okay.
I'd appreciate it.
And what would you say about your guest experience on the show?
It's beautiful. Mitch, it's intimate, even though it's virtual. It's connection. It's human. It's seeing your smiling face over the video. It's what humanity should be all about. This, in real world, where we could sit across, have a coffee or a beer or a wine, is even better. But I will never take away how beautiful this feels when you get to talk to somebody. So my experience has been fabulous. I hope more people talk to you. You use the word you're a volume podcaster, but I'm hoping millions and millions of people can touch you and go through this platform to create stories that the world can enjoy.
Great. And what would you say is your final word? How do you want to leave us who are listening and participating in this? Because I take this in just as much as anybody else, if not more.
Be thankful. Be thankful for all the small and the big gifts of life. There's far more misery in the world than we can imagine. And I guarantee everyone who can be on the podcast, can listen to a podcast, has a lot going in their life well. So be thankful.
Okay. Well, you've been a great guest, and thank you for being here. And I wish you the best of luck and continue impacting people so we can leave a better legacy for our children and people there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mitch.